think recording has started. So thanks everybody. Let me quickly start with introductions. My name is Shweta. I'm a principal product manager based out of India, Hyderabad, and I own Dynamics 365 Commerce and SCM portfolio from India. So great to see all of you who have found time and joined this session. And then we have Anne, who is a senior product marketing manager, and she's here to present the business process catalog. And do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Anne Krupke. I am based out of Seattle, and I guess I'd call myself a co-founder of the business process catalog at Microsoft. I've spent my whole career in the Dynamics channel. I've been at Microsoft for about 4 years. The first 2 I was with our fast track team, and most recently I've been with product marketing for ERP.
Okay, thanks, Anne. So I'll take just a couple of minutes to familiarize this group about Doug. I'm sure you must be knowing about it, but I'll just take 2 minutes on the Doug Meetup, what it is. So it started in 1995, and it started as an online community, and then it expanded to more than 47,000 plus community member. And it's a free community for all the users, implementers, and resellers, right, for Microsoft business applications. And when we say Microsoft Business Applications, it comprises of Dynamics 365 Power Platform community and then Dynamics GP to certain extent. So this is the platform to share knowledge and discuss about Dynamics. Right, so rules of engagement is mostly this is local meetup where different local meetups are done and people share knowledge about on different topics. And it's not like we should not use this forum for selling any services or it's more about sharing knowledge, and anybody is free to join these forums like customers, partners, ISVs, right, and everybody. And at the end of the session, maybe we'll have a quick kind of free discussion where you guys can let us know what topics would you like to hear as part of this session as we grow this community. Right, so these are different dynamic user group programs which are supported by Doug as of now. So feel free to go ahead and explore about these different forums and programs and join these based on your interest. And in terms of what are the upcoming conferences which are done by Doug, Convergence is again restarting this year, and it's coming in December in Miami. So this is one of the latest addition to the Doug conferences. Then they also do a lot of DynamicsCon. Yeah, so this is one of their key event in Las Vegas, which happens in May. This time it's happening in May 12 to 15. So this is one of their key events. So feel free to go ahead and explore about this and see if you want to register. And then we have a lot of regionals coming as part of DynamicsCon. So this is some of the regionals, and our aim is also as we grow in India, right? How do we start DynamicsCon in India as well as we build the rhythm? So that's a brief about Doug. I will hand it over to Anne from now, so she can walk us through the business process catalog. Anne, over to you.
Thanks, Shweta. All right, let me share my screen. And actually, quick show of hands, who here has heard or is familiar with the business process catalog? You raise your hand or react in Teams. I know you, Lona, all you know about it, but that's good. Brand new crowds, good as well to get a little bit of learning in. So I'll start with what the business process catalog was developed by Microsoft. I think it's been 4 years now, 3 or 4 years ago, to help change the way we talk about the solution strategy. When you're building a solution strategy, you need to ground implementation in your process, your people, and then your data. And then once you understand those 3 things, connecting them to how does Microsoft and specifically Dynamics 365 supporting them. It's the mindset shift. Instead of saying, here's a feature, how do we make it work for you? We say, what do you need? And how do we make the technology work for you? And that was how our process catalog was born. And I think one thing that's really important to note is business process doesn't get any less relevant in this age where we're all talking about AI and how it's going to completely change the way we all work. You can't automate a process you don't understand. And if you automate a process that's not optimal, you're just making it run, you're making a bad process run faster. So you really need to be able to take a process-centric mindset to technology implementation and a process optimization mindset when you bring AI into the picture to really get more of a result than just a faster process. To really make it better, you have to understand it. So I'll talk about a little bit more about why we created the business process catalog. And it's not just some Learn articles, although the Learn articles are what often we're known for. It's a key foundation to drive a completely different way of thinking about technology. So we start with the Learn documentation that's helping both our consultants, our partners, and our customers or users understand how our products and technology support their business. So mapping business goals and using business language to our features and products with their benefits. And then we use the catalog to provide clear visibility to the process coverage we have in our technology solutions, which allows partners and ISVs to identify where ISV solutions may be needed or where there's gaps and you need to build a customization. Or even working on more kind of advanced process-oriented tools that can help you get a process-driven estimate for the effort required for implementation products. And kind of the flip side of that is not just estimating the work, but also creating a scope by looking at these are the business processes that are in the scope of the project that we're running. You can create clear boundaries instead of saying, oh, well, only this feature is in scope versus that feature. You give yourself, I think, a little bit more clarity from the customer perspective when you scope in terms of process context. Once you've defined the scope, project managers have access to an Azure DevOps project template that is set up to follow the business process catalog, which helps create a detailed process-oriented project plan. We also have Fast Track has a set of workshop templates for each business process that consultants and business analysts can use to help analyze your business requirements. And then once you've done the project analysis, you can actually use the patterns, the best practice configuration patterns in the documentation to understand how to build solutions to support the process based on different design considerations. So at the heart of this all, we're not just defining how we view the business processes, but we're also giving you that direct access to Microsoft's recommended best practice configurations, which I know is always a top priority. And then you go through your validation period, and we have process-driven testing. So test cases aligning to business process. So you're not just making sure that an individual configuration works, but ultimately that the solution will support the end-to-end process as you scoped it and designed it. And then in the adopt pillar, we want to help customers determine where there's business process changes, and that can help you implement effective change management so you can adopt our new technologies, which is also capabilities that are built into our ADO template. And then finally, there's the optimize pillar. So in the end, you want to be able to optimize your business processes, and Fast Track is actually looking at how to use telemetry-based assessments to provide business process insights for tailored understanding that can help you continuously optimize your process. Like we said, AI automation just makes the process go faster, but if you're going to look at process optimization through AI, you're unlocking kind of a whole different set of outcomes. And there are a few different ways to use the catalog, and I'm going to focus on a couple of them today. But I know Shweta is well connected, and if we want to do deep dives later on, we have lots of experts who can talk about all of the different ways to use the catalogs. So the first one is to accelerate the sales process. One of the things that I've worked on since I joined the marketing side of the business is actually taking this business process catalog and creating demo and pre-sales content that helps us not only implement in a process-centric mindset, but also sell to customers with that mindset. You can also use Mavims or other business process modeling tools to model and just like actually map out the business process according to the catalogs. And as we mentioned on the last slide, you can use the catalog to estimate project effort, define project scope, determine fit gap analysis based on our standard best practice configuration recommendations, create your project plans, and manage your project with that Azure DevOps tool. So I'm going to get into a little bit more on the pre-sales piece, and then I'll actually show you what the learn content looks like, the downloadable Excel file, and I have a video that shows what the Azure DevOps template looks like as well. So from a pre-sales perspective, like historically speaking, business application sales has been really product led. So whether on this call, whether you're a customer or you're a partner of Microsoft, I think you may be more familiar with, well, I'm in the market for an ERP, or I'm in the market for a CRM or a commerce solution. And when you lead the sales cycle with that, you're going to end up kind of putting the solution before the problem, and it ends up with different sets of technical terminology based on, historical interaction. For example, we have our production floor execution module, and other people might call it an MES module. And so when you focus on the product and the technical terminology, often you spend all this time translating just to get to what does the business actually need. But when you lead with process-led sales, when you start with business language and you say, this is how we look at processes, help us understand what your process is, what the pain points are, then once you have that shared understanding of what the customer, what the user business does, then you can map it to potential solutions with kind of a better plan, and then work on the technology side of things. And if you look at this slide, this is actually, I think, the first one that has the full list of the business processes on it, except for one. So there are 15 business processes in our catalog. You see them all listed out here, but they cover everything a business does, from procurement and planning to operations, financials, warehousing, fulfillment, manufacturing. We have a business process that covers all of it. So to create this process-centric content, we focused on the ERP side of things, so the core 10 ERP processes, and I created a pitch deck for every process that kind of explains upfront, okay, this is how Microsoft maps the process, and here are the high-level capabilities that we provide to support the process. And then we actually break it down area by area to say, here are different challenges we often see people having with this process. Here's the specific feature that helps address the challenge, and then the benefit, the measurable value that comes out from using our product to solve this problem. And then we show the top features in each of those process areas that Dynamics or Microsoft provide to help solve customer problems. So it's allowing us to put the process first and the challenge first, and then coming back and showing the features that help support the process. And so, like, in terms of what there actually is out there, this is the list of the 10 processes we've delivered. And actually, since I made these slides, we updated this to add one more, which was service to deliver. And these decks are available not only actually to partners, but also to end users or customers for free for anybody to use, basically, like, to help demonstrate like what we provide for each business process. And I actually have gotten feedback from some people that they use the content for discovery as well. So it's really like, it's not overly salesy. It's much more focused on just how do we provide capabilities to support a business process. So I wanted to take a minute and just show you what that looks like. So for anybody with a Microsoft Partner ID, you have access to a tool called Partner Hub, which I hope you're all familiar with those partners out there. And I just put a link to it in the chat. But Partner Hub is a way that you can get access to Microsoft go-to-market materials to help showcase the latest and greatest messaging. And on our ERP solution play page, at the bottom, we have all of the links to the business process pitch decks. It's in these two boxes. And then we also have a subset of the business processes available as click-through demos, and you can access the demo scripts for these through Partner Hub as well. So that's available to any partner who has a Microsoft Partner ID. You'll be able to log into Partner Hub and access all of this content. And one of the pieces of feedback that I got almost immediately was from our customers, especially those who are kind of self-sufficient in implementing for themselves, that they wanted access to this content too. So what we did about a month ago is we actually were able to load these documents on the Fast Track implementation portal. Excuse me. For anybody who's not available, anybody who's not familiar, the Fast Track implementation portal is a free tool available to all Microsoft customers to access customized Fast Track best practice guidance for implementation. So it's not just the process decks, there's even more detailed implementation guidance that's available to you, and reporting like the telemetry recommendations and everything like that. So I put a link to that in the chat, and there is also a, let me grab this one too. Here's a link to the Learn article about the implementation portal so you can learn a little bit more. But again, this is totally free. And if you are an end user of Dynamics and you want to access the process decks, then this is how you can access them, again, for free and publicly available as long as you're a customer. And then Partner Hub is where our partners can access the content. Okay. And then on to a little bit more of a deep dive. So we've talked about the concept of this process framework and why we did it and what kind of benefits and unlocks, and the fact that we have a deck. But now we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about what the process catalog looks like and the structure and approach we took to it. So there are 4 layers to the process catalog. The level 1 or L1 is the end-to-end process. So for an ERP example, that's source to pay, right? The process of procuring and paying for goods inbound. The level 2 are the business process areas. So they are logical groupings of sub-processes that make up the end-to-end process. So the L2s for source to pay include managing supplier relationships and procuring materials and services. And I think there are 5 or 6. And most of the end-to-end processes have between 5 and 8 process areas. The third level is the specific business processes. So within managing supplier relationships, you may have defining a procurement and sourcing strategy, or within procure materials and services, you may have the specific process for issuing purchase orders. So it goes one level down to the discrete kind of step-by-step business process. And that is where we end with the kind of solution agnostic terminology. The 4th layer of the business process catalog is actually the configuration scenarios or best practices. So within creating a purchase order, one way you can do that is from a purchase requisition or a project. And so that level 4 scenario will say, this is when you do it this way, if this is what your business requirement is. So it's the step where we connect the process to how Dynamics 365 can support it. And same thing on the CRM side, prospect to quote is an example there where we have, that's the end-to-end is prospect to quote. The process areas, for example, are identifying and qualifying leads or pursuing opportunities. The business processes are qualify leads or manage the opportunity process. And then the patterns get down to exactly how to configure D365 sales to support the business process patterns. For a different visualization of this, we have, and this is done in all of the process decks, we've mapped out these on the purple line are a double click example on order to cash. These develop sales policies, manage sales orders, etc., are the level 2 process areas within order to cash. And then we actually do also map out those connections between the other business processes, which is super critical because no end-to-end process lives all by itself. They really do overlap and connect, and that's one of the big value points of Dynamics. And then we get into we take those level 2s and we break them down to show the level 3 business processes that we put in the catalog under each area. So again, this is still kind of the more solution agnostic, but this is our perspective on what's included in the order to cash process. And then we add a different lens, which is showcasing the capabilities. And you'll notice that we can group capabilities by the level 2 area, but a capability is not the equivalent of a business process. So it helps really clarify, first when we're talking terminology, and then second when we're talking capability. So you can still have that perspective of my technology needs to have this, and this capability, but ultimately for a successful implementation, we need to put it through that lens of the process. And speaking of implementation content, let's move over to that. So I'm going to go show you a quick demo of the content available on Learn. So the place that you should know, I really hope you do, but if you don't, the place that everybody in this industry should know about is the Dynamics 365 Guidance Hub. This is the home for not just the business process content, but also access to the fast track implementation guides, the portal reference architectures, migration programs, administration training, like everything high level that you may need to know about implementing and maintaining Dynamics. You start here and you can find it. But we will get into the business process content. So we'll just jump into the get started. And this is where you have kind of a quick start guide that shows you all of what's available on Learn. So you have some different introductory get started articles that explain what the business process guide is, some of the terminology that we use to kind of break it down and classify it. And then some of like the top concepts that you may want to use, and then also updates on how we continuously optimize the business process catalog. Every time they publish a new one, they will publish a what's new, and then you can see all the different processes and jump right into them. But if we look over on the left, we can see that they show up here as well. So for example, acquire to dispose, for that business process, there is an overview that describes the end-to-end business process, the upstream and downstream processes that relate to it and how they relate, featured capabilities that the process offers, Visio diagrams that kind of map out the high-level process and the process areas and how they relate to the sub-processes. And then for each of those level 2 process areas, there is also a Learn article that explains what is this process area, what makes it up, who are the people who are involved in this part of the process, and a 1 level down process flow that shows all of the specific business processes in that business process area. And this is all still a work in progress, so I might have to take a second to find, here we go. So For example, in source to pay, we have the business process area, and then we have the actual, I think this is an example of a specific business process. So we go one level down to an L3 and a description of that with specific configuration guidance, again, for exactly how do you set up the system to support that business process. So this is what Fast Track and many of our contributors are supporting, is this creation of the full-on catalog and all of the learn documentation that includes that. How do you configure the system to support it? And I wanted to just show a couple of more important things. So if you go to the business process catalog, about the business process catalog article, there is a link where you can actually directly download a Excel file that contains the full breakdown of the business process catalog. So let's grab the full catalog for August 2025, so the most recent version. And it looks like you can download, that's new, by the way, I didn't know that, but you can actually just download the catalog for specific business processes now. And this contains the Azure DevOps structure. So you can see we have the end-to-end work item for acquire to dispose, each of the, okay, those are workshops, and then the process area sub-items, and then the specific business process sub-items and the scenario patterns underneath. So not just the full catalog, but with, you know, all of the dependencies and relationships and configuration deliverables that are required to set up that process within Dynamics 365. So you can review it simply in Excel, or you can actually add it to Azure DevOps. And I have a video of what that looks like. So I'll play that. I need to make sure I share it with sound. And then I have time after that for whatever questions you guys may have.
I'm here in the Azure DevOps. That has a sample of our August 2024 business process catalog loaded. I'm going to go ahead and open up the queries page and click on import work items. If you are starting up a new project, this is where you'll need to import the file. So you'll use the choose file button, browse to the file that you want to upload, and then click open. After you click import, the system will review the file and display the work items to you in the grid. As long as there are no errors and you don't need to make any changes, you can click the Save Items button in the upper left-hand corner. Since I've already imported all of my work items, I'm going to go back and open up a query that has the details of the business process catalog. So here I've got a query that is designed to show the work items as a hierarchy. I'm going to use the minus button to collapse all those items. And here you can see each of our end-to-end processes. Now in the August 2024 catalog, we've introduced some new work items, including workshops. These workshops only exist in the acquire to dispose business process, and there are some down in the 99 administer to operate, and I'll talk about those here in just a minute. If we expand the first workshop, which is a scenario board discovery workshop, you'll notice that each of the workshops has a description, including objectives, an agenda, including suggested times, workshop assumptions, including the suggested stakeholders, and a list of key questions. We do recommend that you put some additional fields on your workshops to track the additional details as required for your project. After you've executed the scenario board workshop, we've included 3 tasks. So here, for this example, we have the process of creating the user stories for the end-to-end process, the process of configuring your solution for the end-to-end process, and a task for documenting and designing the initial solution blueprint and solution architecture for a particular end-to-end process. After that workshop, you'll execute what we call the storyline design review workshop, where you can actually drill down and do that demonstration of that storyline that was determined by your scenario board. You can also then document the acquired to dispose gaps in your RAID log. After that workshop, you can refine those user stories, and there's a task here to plan your detailed design workshops. We've also included a document deliverable where you can link in the detailed design document that includes your flow diagrams, your integration points, and so on for the end-to-end process. Then, if we drill down into our level 2 business process areas, which are imported as epics, we have business processes below those, and you'll notice that each of our level 2 business process areas has at least one workshop included in the acquire to dispose process. In some cases, and I'm going to use acquire assets as the example, you can see that there are multiple workshops defined. The basic structure of all the workshops is exactly the same. Continuing to drill down, if I use source assets as my example, you'll notice that we've got user stories below those. So source assets is an example of a business process. And then below that, we have our user stories, or what we refer to as patterns. You'll also notice configuration deliverables. At this point, the business process catalog only includes configuration deliverables for finance and operations apps. We are working to update that to add some additional missing configurations, and we're also working to add the configurations for all of the customer engagement apps as well. Now, if I collapse these and navigate down to administer to operate, I want to point out a new epic that was added with this recent catalog, which is called the implement solutions. I like to think of this as our success by design approach, and this very closely follows the implementation guide. So the features that you see here map to all of the chapters, and below those we have created the topics of each of those chapters along with the tasks that come from the checklists at the end of all of those chapters. You will notice that some of the topics have documentation deliverables. I'm pointing out the Create Solution Blueprint here as an example, which has a document deliverable for each of the categories in our Success by Design approach. I also want to point out another example, and for this I'll use Manage Data. You'll notice that there's a workshop, so this is our Success by Design workshop. And then we also have those user stories which map to the topics and the tasks underneath it. We would recommend that you assign each of these tasks to the appropriate person within your project. You'll also notice that we've got a document deliverable underneath here. So any of the tasks that indicate you needed to document something have been created as
Okay. So that I hope gives you an understanding of how the catalog is not just a learn documentation, but also how you can use it to actually run your projects by importing through Azure DevOps and leveraging the latest Success by Design workshops. So that was all the content that I had prepped to show today, but I'm happy to spend some time answering questions or, hearing feedback from the group.
This was actually amazing, and I think if somebody gives me my backlog in the Edo, right, it's amazing to see that. I think The demo was amazing, and seeing that backlog, I'm sure like people are able to leverage that and make the best out of it. Yeah, so I think we can open the floor for questions. If anybody wants to come out of the mute and share their queries or anything further you would like to understand about business process catalog.
I can say something. We are actually using those already before. So if we are starting to talk to a customer and they are not exactly sure what are the needs, then we use this to talk about if they don't have like an RFP or they need help to do an RFP or something. Then this comes out really good because we can always find some topics to talk about on that process. So that's really good.
Awesome.
Great. So do you want to share any story like Lone? I mean, I'm not sure if any, if any specific customer or somebody like where you were able to leverage this.
Yeah, there was a customer just a few weeks ago that were looking into to different processes. It was for both supply chain and for finance in this case. And then we started on a high level trying to cross what can you see yourself here, and then we went down level for level to see what was the processes that they need. So it gives them a better understanding and also us an easier way of trying to demo the system for them to see what could be used for them. So that's, since I'm in pre-sales, that's the thing that we are using it mostly for.
Great, thanks for sharing.
We do also have, I should have pulled this link. We have a customer story that showed that we actually, so we had a customer, Longview, who used the process catalog during their implementation and were able to actually save money on customizations and speed up the design cycle. I'm just looking for the link to the story, but it's really cool. They were so happy with the process catalog that they were willing to share their experience.
And also the slides you did, Anne, are really good. That's also good for giving ideas to customers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think at least as Lone said, like it's helping them in the pre-sales process. I can share my experience as a PM. I think I was talking to Anne before the call started, right? I think any PMs who are joining new to the team, it becomes a really difficult for them to understand. I mean, they might be having their domain knowledge, but how it relates to Dynamics 365 and going through learn documentation is quite takes time, right? Having this business processes actually helps them visualize this whole thing end to end. So I would say not just, pre-sales folks or marketing folks. I think this business processes helps, I think every persona like across the product ranging from pre-sales to PM to engineers, everybody, I would say.
Yeah, that was a really important angle that we took too, was we're all working on the same project. So if we're going to do one thing over here with pre-sales, and if we're going to do a different thing with implementation and even engineering, right? I think that when we're all using the same approach and mindset, it creates a consistent experience and sets us all up for success.
Yep.
And then if you have the processes that the customer uses in DevOps, and every time a what's new release is coming, then you can map it to the processes, and then you know for which customers that could be interesting, the new features. So
Yeah.
we are working on doing something like that so we can get the new features out to the right customers.
Yeah, that's actually one of my secret campaigns is I'm trying to get them to update release planners so that all the features are tagged by business process.
Exactly. That's the only link that is missing, because then it's like the circle is done then. So that's really nice.
Okay, great. Anybody else would like to come out of mute and share their experience or any queries?
Okay. Well,
I think we are
thanks
good then.
yeah. Yeah, if people wanted to put ideas in the chat, or share with Shweta, if there's other deeper dive topics on business process catalog. Like I said, we have lots of folks here at Microsoft who are contributors and would, I'm sure, be happy to share if there's any area that's of more interest.
Yeah, and I think since we are building this, getting started, I think your inputs would be quite valuable. So feel free to share your inputs, even if you have any other topics which you'd like to hear. Feel free in this chat group, and we'll be more than happy to pursue those topics. Okay, I think then we can wrap up. Thanks, Anne, and thanks everybody who was part of the session. Looking forward to see you again in further sessions.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.